I love using points for really good travel redemptions, but there are so many people that absolutely hate all of the work and time associated with it. So banks have come up with alternative, fairly reasonably optimal redemption options. Today we're going to talk about a very popular one called Chase Pay Yourself Back. My name is Sean and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi everyone, I'm Sherwin. On today's episode of the Credit Card BS podcast, is the Chase Pay Yourself Back program worth it? First of all, what is Chase Pay Yourself Back? This was a redemption option that Chase rolled out during the pandemic when it was hard for people to travel, but they still wanted to keep customers and allow them to use their points for more meaningful redemptions than just 1 cent per point cash back. So it's basically statement credits that can apply to certain purchases and offset them. So, for example, during the pandemic, you could offset any dining purchase on the Chase Sapphire Reserve at 1.5 cents per point, which is a great alternative to like using the travel portal, for example. Obviously, they did not keep that very favorable redemption rate around, and now it's sort of whittled down and the options are not as good, but it still could be an okay option for certain people and certain use cases. So yeah, Sean, have you ever used Pay Yourself Back? Is elevated statement credit option of any interest to you, or alternatively, do you tend to use Chase points in a different way?
So it's interesting. Before, a few years back when this kind of came out, I was I'm never going to redeem points unless it's under 2 cents per point ever, right? And I've done changed a bit on that, not because I'm oh, I don't want to get the best value for my points. I absolutely do, okay? But I've realized that the metric we use to calculate value for points is flawed. Not flawed in the sense of, oh, I wouldn't pay that, so it's not worth that, but flawed in that, let's say I have a Chase point and I transfer it to Virgin Atlantic and I book a $10,000 ANA first class that gives me 10 cents per point, right? I don't want to value that Chase point at 10 cents per point because it's not correct. And what I mean by that is I can buy Virgin Atlantic points depending on the sale for 1.2, I think it's maybe more 1.4, 1.5, maybe whatever it is, right? But if I can buy Virgin Atlantic points for 1.5 cents per point and I transfer Chase to Virgin Atlantic, regardless of how I use those Virgin Atlantic miles, I did not get my Chase point is not worth 10 cents per point. It's worth 1.5 or whatever you could have bought it at the time is, right? And so, yes, then I redeemed it for something worth way higher. But I've now framed my reference around what can I buy these points for at a regular-ish interval, or maybe during optimal sales that happen in a semi-regular interval, where I can buy a significant amount of those points. So for example, Hilton points, right? Let's say Amex has some great Hilton transfer bonus or something at some point. I am never going to say how much value am I going to get from those Hilton points, right? I'm going to mainly say, okay, what could I have bought those Hilton points at during a good sale, right? That's half a cent per point. Same thing with IHG, same thing with all these airlines. And so the question for me now becomes, does me doing a Pay Yourself Back give me a cent per point that is higher than what I could buy an airline I would want to buy at? So an example of this would be I think it's Avianca Life Miles. You can, during sales, I think sometimes buy for under 1.25 cents per point in a fairly reasonable amount. And so if I was going to do an Avianca Life Miles redemption, and I don't know the transfer bonus frequency or whatever, but the idea is if I could do Pay Myself Back, take that cash and then apply that to an Avianca Life Miles purchase, that would be more optimal. So that's my personal opinion on it. Bit of a rant there, but what are your thoughts, Sherwin?
I think that is fairly reasonable. Only nuance I'd add to that is you have to be mindful of what types of options you have in a particular bank's transfer. So for example, Virgin Atlantic, right? Everyone in their mom's bank transfers to Virgin Atlantic. So I'm less likely to use a Chase point or a Citi point because Chase exclusively transfers to Hyatt. Citi exclusively transfers to EVA Air at a 1-to-1 ratio, right? So I'm going to save it for those types of things. So I'm still going to be mindful about what I'm transferring to and not just going to I probably will still not redeem for Pay Yourself Back using my Chase points because Hyatt points are kind of hard to get around or hard to obtain otherwise because other than Bilt, there's no other transfer partner. So I think it's still a bit nuanced to me because I have to consider what the transfer options are in each bank.
That's a really good point. And I want to add one clarification. I've never used Pay Myself Back. For me personally, yes, I use all my Chase points to Hyatt because Hyatt is so difficult. But I guess like in terms of the philosophy of it, I'm not as opposed if I was like swimming in Chase points. But yes, like as far as my like, yes, I agree with you, Sean. The day-to-day redemption, I mean, like Chase to Hyatt, that's where it's at still. Because yeah, like every other bank, right? Like or transfers to a lot of these other airlines. And so yeah, it just doesn't make sense. So let's talk a bit about, Sharon, what are the like ratios in terms of like how much can I actually get from like pay yourself back?
Yeah, so let's start with the Chase Sapphire cards because that's what most people have, and then we'll move over to the co-branded cards because they actually now have pay yourself back for co-branded cards and those loyalty points. So for Chase Sapphire Preferred, 1 cent per point toward the annual fee. Very uninteresting, to be honest. You also get select charities at 1.25 cents per point, which is a wash. I mean, if you're someone who donates to charities anyway and does not like spend a lot of time optimizing your Sapphire points, sure, but I wouldn't expect most people to derive great value from this. Same thing for Chase Sapphire Reserve for business, Chase Sapphire Preferred Freedom, Inc. cards, select charities at 1.25 cents per point. Chase Sapphire Reserve is very interesting because they keep changing it and now they like rotate on a quarterly basis. So for example, in Q3 of 2025, when we're recording this, your options are grocery stores, including Walmart and Target at 1.25 cents per point, gas stations at 1.25 cents per point, home improvement stores, 1.25 cents per point, annual fee, 1.25 cents per point, and charities at 1.5 cents per point. Now, me personally, I think 1.25 is too low of a value for Chase Sapphire Reserve points, especially since prior to the changes, you could routinely get 1.5 on the portal. And now with the new changes, even on things like the edit, you can routinely get 2 cents per point on those luxury hotel stays with additional perks. So personally, I would not redeem it 1.25 cents per point for these things. The other thing I would add is don't focus too much on the category itself and how useful it is, unless it's like charity where you think you're unlikely to use. Like things like grocery stores and gas stations, for example. Like whether it's gas station or restaurant or grocery stores or whatever, like you're just redeeming things off your statement for points. So like it, mathematically is the same whether I redeem for a $100 dining charge at 1.25 cents per point or a $100 grocery charge for 1.25 cents per point. That makes sense. It's just a flat redemption. It does not actually matter. Does that make sense, Sean?
Yeah, totally makes sense. I think like there's the only like exception, I guess, would be like if someone's like, okay, hey, I want to redeem my points for something. Like I guess in the sense of if you're trying to forcibly redeem it, right? And the question is like, hey, is it something where like, oh, my buddy needs like a leaf blower or something? Let me go buy it for him at the home improvement store and then pay myself back, and then he gives me the cash, and I've effectively, right, like forced my way to redeem it. But yeah, like in normal day-to-day things, yeah, like it doesn't matter. Like you shouldn't be like, oh, I would do pay myself back if it's gas stations, but like not grocery stores. And like if you're spending on both, right, the math is the exact same thing.
Yeah, mentally, to me, it's not like I'm really offsetting particular purchases points. I'm just redeeming statement credits in amounts that happen to reflect certain purchases on my card. So yeah, I think unless they bring back 1.5 cents per point on like a pretty good category, I'm not very interested in this. But some people, it might make sense. Okay, let's talk about the co-branded cards. This is where it gets interesting. So I think the most interesting of these is the Chase Aeroplan card, pay yourself back. So this directly operates on Aeroplan points themselves, not just Chase points. You can get pay yourself back 1.25 cents per point on travel purchases, limited to 200K points per year, and as well as the annual fee through currently December 31st, 2025, but they might extend this. It's very interesting. Like travel purchases is very broad, so this is almost just like cashing out Aeroplan points at 1.25 cents per point. Now, there were people in the past that tried like mass transferring like Aeroplan points from Amex and other programs or buying them and then using pay yourself back on the Chase side, and then they got shut down. So would not necessarily recommend that strategy. It would be too good to be true. But now that they have the 200K limit per year, it's kind of like pretty fixed on how far you can go with this.
Yeah, I think I think it's definitely a really interesting one because this is like one of the most tangible categories. And this is like definitely for something like where if you're going to redeem it, right? Like some friends and I have done math on this where it's like, redeeming Hyatt points sometimes. If you get anything, like when you start to get below like 2 cents per point, the math becomes very interesting very quickly because it's like, if you factor in the points like you would be earning from like on your Hyatt account and stuff, and like having the cash stay, like you need a higher cent per point than you would imagine to like optimally redeem Hyatt points. Now, like it's like still like 1.25 is too low in this case, but like the interesting part is it's just like sometimes people just purely look at the cents per point, but not the opportunity cost of like, oh, if I had made this a cash purchase, right? What other benefits would I have gotten in terms of points earning, or maybe like sometimes like you're eligible for like a better rate or something like that in some of these like travel purchases. So I think it is interesting in that sense.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's go through some other ones. So Chase Southwest also has to pay yourself back now. It's 1 cent per point toward the annual fee. It did say valid through June 30th, 2025, and we're past that. I don't know if they extended it, but I probably wouldn't go this route, to be honest, because Southwest points you could easily get much more than 1 cent per point with. Not that interesting, in my opinion. Chase United, pay yourself back. So for the annual fee, between 1.35 and 1.6 cents per point, depending on the card version. I feel that with how difficult it is to get outsized value with United points anymore, this could be an acceptable redemption if it's like 1.4 to 1.6 cents per point. You can also pay yourself back on United flight purchases of $50 or more at 1 cent per point. This one probably wouldn't go with, because now that United has dynamic pricing where like any United flight you find can be redeemed with points, albeit not very good cents per point value, you're still usually going to be more than 1 cent per point. So I would take that. I would transfer to United and make that redemption rather than liquidating it this way. However, if you just happen to have a bunch of United miles stuck there, they're not Chase miles that are like United miles that you need to like get rid of quickly. It's situational, but I would just redeem for United flights at that point. Sean, would you agree?
Yeah, I will agree with you as well on the annual fee side. Like that's actually a surprisingly decent redemption, just because United miles kind of have just been getting like devaled after devaled after devaled. But yeah, like if you're someone that's like gonna go out and earn these miles, ideally you would have like a good use case for them and like a fairly optimal redemption for them. But yeah, like I will say, like this is definitely one of the best, like the annual fee side at least, like one of the best pay yourself back like redemption options that seem to exist in this ecosystem.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's talk about the Chase Marriott Bonvoy Bold card pay yourself back. So this is only on the no annual fee Bold card, not on the other annual fee Chase Marriott cards. So it's very interesting. Now it did say valid through June 30th, 2025, but we don't know if they extended this. But basically for airline purchases and Marriott hotel purchases, you can offset that for 0.8 cents per point for up to total $700 per year. I actually don't think this is too bad of value given how much Marriott points have been devalued. 0.8 could be acceptable in some situations. I would also add that if you're paying cash for this Marriott stay as points to redeeming points, you're going to be earning points on that stay as well. So there could be an argument where like if you're choosing between redeeming for the night at 0.8 cents per point or like pay cash for it and then paying yourself back at 0.8 cents per point, I'd probably go for the cash option so that I can actually earn points on that cash.
Yes, I'm actually, you might even take it a step farther and say that this like is a fully optimal way to use the Bonvoy points, because I believe during sales, Bonvoy points sell for under 0.8 cents per point. And so there's actually like a spread. You'd actually be getting like more value for your points, right? Just by like using it to the cash, take that cash, buy more points, right? You'd actually like profit a little points. And then yes, like you do earn a not insignificant amount of points when you like have a cash stay with Bonvoy, right? Like if you're titanium, you're getting like 17.5 points per dollar, which is pretty significant. Even if you're platinum, like, which is, pretty common, like Marriott status now, it's like 15 points per dollar. There are not that many Bonvoy redemptions anymore where you're getting more than like 0.8 cents per point. Obviously aspirational ones for sure, that's different. But like in the vast majority of Bonvoy redemptions, you're not getting 0.8 cents per point. And even if you are, let's say, I would still say like, assuming I'm correct in that Bonvoy points sell on sale for anything less than 0.8 cents per point, there's an argument to like, oh, you should max this out, assuming that like coincides with the sale like max you can buy, because you actually would be getting a tiny spread on that. And then addition, of course, earning points on that stay.
Yeah, I agree. But one thing I absolutely would not do is transfer by Chase points to Marriott and then do this to yourself back, because you just sort of erased 0.2 cents per point of value, because you could always cash out Chase, or better yet, pay yourself back at 1.25 cents per point on your other purchases and then use that extra cash that you saved in your bank account to buy the Marriott points. So you got to think about it in this way. Okay, so what did you all think of our analysis of Chase Pay Yourself Back? Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you agree or disagree with what we said? Please leave a comment down below. And like this video, subscribe if you found it useful, greatly helps support our channel. And also, if you're interested in opening any credit cards, please consider using one of the referral links down below. It greatly helps support the channel. And Sean, why don't you plug our Discord?
Yes, if you want to connect with an elite group of award travelers and credit card enthusiasts entirely for free, check out the Traveling Discord group at the link in the description. You will learn a ton, I promise you. Thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next week.